It started with a love that felt unbreakable. She gave him everything: her time, her trust, her heart. He was her world, and for a while, it seemed like she was his too. They laughed, they dreamed, they built a life together. But love, no matter how strong, is only as real as the actions that sustain it. And his actions, they shattered everything. He betrayed her, not just in the way that hurts, but in the way that changes a person forever. One moment she thought she knew him, thought she was safe in the love they shared. The next, she was standing in the wreckage of everything they had built, watching as the man she trusted the most walked away. No explanation, no regret, just the cold reality that she was no longer enough for him. The pain was unbearable. Nights spent staring at the ceiling, wondering what went wrong. Days forcing herself to smile, pretending she wasn't breaking inside. She tried to move on, but every place, every song, every little detail of life reminded her of him. And the worst part, he didn't seem to care. While she drowned in heartbreak, he lived his life as if she had never mattered. But pain has a way of turning into power. Slowly, she picked up the pieces. She stopped looking for answers that would never come. She stopped waiting for an apology that would never be spoken. Instead, she rebuilt herself not for him, not for revenge, but for her own survival. And in the process, something incredible happened. She became the woman he never thought she could be. Stronger, more confident, untouchable. The same girl he took for granted was now the one everyone admired. She was no longer the woman who cried over him. She was the woman who had outgrown him. And then he came back. At first, it was subtle. A glance too long, a hesitation in his voice. He started noticing the things he once ignored. How her laughter carried a different kind of joy, one that no longer needed him. How her presence commanded attention in a way it never did before. Suddenly, the girl he left behind was the woman he couldn't live without. But could she ever forgive him? Would she even want to? Or was it too late for him to fix what he had broken? That's the part you don't want to miss. Keep watching, because this story is far from over. She never thought she'd see him again. Not in a way that mattered, at least. Maybe a passing glance in a crowded place, a moment that would sting but fade just as quickly. But life had a strange way of bringing back the very things she had fought to leave behind. The first time she saw him again, it was almost surreal. He stood there, looking at her as if he wasn't sure she was real. Like he had expected her to still be the broken girl he walked away from. But she wasn't. She had changed, and it showed in everything: her posture, her presence, the way she didn't immediately acknowledge him. But he wasn't the same either. There was something in his eyes now, something restless. Regret? Guilt? She couldn't tell, and honestly, she didn't care. At least, that's what she told herself. But deep down, something stirred. Not love, not longing, but the undeniable weight of unfinished business. He tried to act casual, as if he wasn't struggling to find the right words. "You look different," he finally said, his voice quieter than she remembered. She just smiled, a knowing, unreadable smile. "People change," she replied. He hesitated, searching for more to say, but she didn't give him the chance. She turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, just like he had left her before. But that wasn't the end. If only it had been that simple. The encounters started happening more often. A coincidence? Maybe at first. A shared social circle made it inevitable, but soon, it felt deliberate. Like he was looking for excuses to be near her. Little moments longer, eye contact across the room, an almost hesitant hello when they crossed paths, a lingering silence when he could have just walked away. She ignored it at first, refused to believe he was trying to come back, but the signs were there. The way he watched her when he thought she wasn't looking, the way his smile faded just a little too quickly whenever she laughed with someone else. And then, one night, he finally spoke the words she had never expected to hear. I made a mistake. She froze. They were standing outside, away from the noise of the party they had both been invited to. He had followed her out, as if he had been waiting for the right moment. She could feel the weight of his words before he even said them. She let out a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. Which part? Walking away, or thinking I'd still be here when you decided to come back? His jaw tightened. He had always been good at hiding his emotions, at acting like nothing could touch him. But this time, she saw the cracks. I never stopped thinking about you, he admitted. I thought I could, but I was wrong. She shook her head, refusing to let the words sink in. You don't get to do this. You don't get to leave, then come back when it's convenient for you. I know, he said quickly. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But, he paused, exhaling sharply. I need you to know that I regret it. Every single day. She should have walked away. She should have told him that regret wasn't enough, that nothing could erase what he had done. But something in his voice kept her rooted in place. Why? She finally asked. Why now? He hesitated. Because I see you now. I see what I lost, and I hate myself for not seeing it sooner. His words were everything she once would have longed to hear. But now, they only left her feeling hollow, because she wasn't the same girl who'd waited for his love. She wasn't the same girl who would have forgiven him just because he finally realized his mistake. You don't get to see me now, she said softly but firmly. You had your chance. She turned to leave, but this time he didn't let her go so easily. Please, he said, his voice almost desperate. Just give me a chance to explain. I need to tell you why I left. She stopped. Not because she wanted to hear it, but because, for the first time, he sounded like he was telling the truth. And the truth that was something she had never really gotten from him before. She turned back, crossing her arms. You have 5 minutes, she said. And just like that, the past she thought she had buried was about to come rushing back. He looked at her like he was afraid she'd disappear if he blinked. She wasn't sure why she was still standing there, why she was giving him a chance to say anything at all. Maybe some part of her still wanted to understand. Not to forgive, but to finally put this chapter of her life to rest. He took a slow breath, as if gathering the courage to speak. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. His voice was low, careful, like he was choosing every word with precision. I left because I thought I had to. She frowned, arms crossed tightly. Had to? The words tasted bitter in her mouth. No one forced you. He looked away, as if ashamed. You're right. No one forced me, but I was scared of how much I needed you, of how much you trusted me when I didn't even trust myself. She shook her head. That's not an excuse. I know, he said quickly, but it's the truth. I wasn't ready for what we had. I thought if I walked away, it would be easier for both of us. That you'd move on, and I wouldn't have to face the fear of losing you later. She let out a sharp laugh. You didn't want to lose me, so you left. That makes no sense. His jaw tightened. It doesn't. Not now. But back then, I convinced myself I was doing the right thing. I told myself I'd only hurt you in the long run. He hesitated, eyes dark with something she couldn't quite place. And I was right, wasn't I? I did hurt you. She hated that her heart clenched at those words. Hated that even now, a small part of her wanted to believe there had been more to his betrayal than selfishness. But no explanation could erase the nights she spent questioning her worth. The endless days wondering why she wasn't enough for him to stay. You don't get to come back now and rewrite history, she said. You left. You made a choice. And I lived with the consequences of it. I know, he admitted, his voice quieter. And I know I don't deserve another chance. But I can't walk away again without telling you the truth. She wanted to ask if he even knew what the truth was. But something held her back. Maybe it was the way his voice shook slightly. Maybe it was the fact that, for the first time, he looked like he was the one drowning. The silence that followed was unbearable. Then the man from her past spoke. "I was just leaving," he said, but he didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on hers, waiting. Her mind raced. If she let him walk away now, it would be final. No more explanations. No more unfinished conversations. He would be gone for good. But wasn't that what she wanted? Wasn't that the closure she had been searching for? The man at her side glanced between them, and something in his expression shifted. "You don't have to explain anything," he said to her. "But I need to know, are you here with me, or are you still there with him?" Her breath caught in her throat. This was it. The moment everything changed. But before she could answer, something else happened. Something none of them were prepared for. A voice, one she hadn't heard in a long time, called out from behind them. Another familiar voice. One that sent a chill down her spine. She turned slowly, dreading what she would see. And when she did, she felt the ground shift beneath her. Because standing there, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read, was someone she never thought she'd see again. Someone who had been a part of the story long before either of the men standing beside her. And suddenly, everything she thought she knew about the past wasn't as simple as she remembered. Her breath caught as she locked eyes with the last person she ever expected to see. Time seemed to slow, her surroundings fading into the background. The weight of too many memories hit her all at once. The person standing there wasn't just someone from her past. They were part of the reason everything had fallen apart in the first place. A slow, unreadable smile crossed their face. "It's been a long time," they said, voice smooth, but laced with something she couldn't quite place. She barely managed to find her voice. "What are you doing here?" "That's a good question," the man beside her muttered, glancing between them. His tone was controlled, but she could feel the tension in the air shift. The man from her past, the one who had walked away, had gone completely still. His expression was unreadable, but she knew him well enough to see the tension in his posture. He hadn't expected this any more than she had. The newcomer took a slow step closer, hands tucked casually in their pockets. "I heard you were back in town," they said. "Figured it was time we talked." She wasn't sure if it was panic or something deeper twisting in her stomach, but she didn't trust this, not for a second. Too much had been left unresolved, too many pieces of the past, buried without answers. She swallowed hard. Talk about what? Their gaze flickered toward the two men standing beside her, a knowing look passing through their eyes. "I think you already know." And in that moment, she did. There had always been something missing, a piece of the puzzle she had never been able to put together. A part of her past that had never quite made sense, no matter how many times she tried to move on from it. But now, looking into the face of the one person who had been there when everything changed, she realized the truth might be something she wasn't ready for. The man beside her tensed. "If you have something to say, say it," he said, voice sharp. The newcomer smirked slightly, but didn't back down. "All right," they said. "But I don't think she's going to like what she hears." Her pulse pounded. She had thought the past was finally behind her. She had been wrong. She felt the air grow heavier, thick with the weight of what was coming. Every nerve in her body told her that whatever was about to be said would change everything again. The newcomer tilted their head slightly, studying her. "You really never questioned it, did you?" they asked, almost amused. Why everything fell apart the way it did. Her stomach twisted. "I don't know what you're talking about." A small sigh. "I think you do." Their eyes flickered toward the man who had left her before, then back to her. "You think he just woke up one day and decided to walk away?" She felt the man beside her tense. He hadn't spoken, hadn't moved, but she could feel his presence, like a storm waiting to break. "I made my choice," he said quietly, voice taut with something she couldn't name. "Yes," the newcomer said, but not without a little encouragement. Her heart pounded. What does that mean? A slow smirk. It means someone made sure you two wouldn't last. She shook her head, her thoughts spinning. That doesn't make sense. The man from her past finally spoke, his voice cold and sharp. You told me if I didn't leave, she'd get hurt. The words hit her like a punch to the stomach. She turned to him, confusion and disbelief swirling inside her. What? He clenched his jaw. That night, before I left, I got a message, a warning. I thought I was protecting you. She stared at him, trying to make sense of it all. You never told me that. He let out a rough breath. I didn't know how. The newcomer smiled, but there was something dark in their expression. You should have asked more questions back then. She took a step forward, heart hammering. Why? She demanded. Why would you do that? They shrugged. Because you were supposed to end up with someone else. And I couldn't have you ruining the plan. The world felt like it was tilting beneath her feet. None of this made sense, and yet deep down, she knew it was true. There had always been gaps in the story, things that never quite fit. Now those missing pieces were falling into place, and the picture they created was nothing like she had imagined. Her voice was quiet but steady. You manipulated everything. A small chuckle. You say that like it was hard. You were both so easy to push in the right direction. The man beside her, her past was rigid with anger. You don't get to act like this was some kind of game. But it was, the newcomer said simply. And I won. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then she spoke, her voice calm but unshakable. Not anymore. Something flickered in the newcomer's eyes, something like surprise. She turned to the man who had left her, the one who had broken her heart because he thought he had no choice. You should told me, she said softly. Regret flashed across his face. I know. She exhaled, the weight of it all pressing against her. Then she looked at the man beside her, the one who had been there after. The one who had stepped in when her world had already fallen apart. He had stayed quiet through all of this, watching, waiting. Did you know? She asked. His expression was unreadable. Not everything, he admitted, but enough. A sharp pain shot through her chest. And you never said anything? I wanted to, he said, but I was afraid if you knew the truth, you'd go back. Her breath caught. The past, the present, both tangled together, impossible to separate. But now she saw it clearly. The choice she had thought was made for her had never been real at all. She turned back to the newcomer. You don't get to control this anymore. Their smile faded just slightly. She looked between the two men, one who had left, one who had stayed. And she finally understood what she had to do. She wasn't the girl she had been back then, waiting for someone else to decide her future. This time, she was choosing herself. She took a slow breath. I'm done with all of this. She saw the flicker of shock on both their faces. Maybe they had expected her to pick a side, to fall back into the same old story. But she wasn't going to. She turned, stepping away from all of them. The weight that had been crushing her for so long finally began to lift. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she was ready to find out on her own terms.